Good evening, guys. Welcome back to Between the Ropes TV. Now, we've got some breaking news, and it's not confirmed yet, but Ray and Davey did bring us this news on our live on Monday. It looked like it was close. More details released today. It looks as though we're finally getting Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. Now, just a quick roundup of the facts, or potential facts. It looks like it's October the 8th at the O2 and at a catch weight of 156 pounds, which is £2 above the light middleweight limit. So it's, I think it favours Chris Eubank Jr. more than it favours Conor Benn. Ray, what do you think on that?
I think it favours more Conor Benn because it absolutely drains Chris Eubank Jr. Chris Eubank Jr. Don't forget fought super middleweight, 168. He wasn't a big super middleweight, but he struggled to make middleweight. He still made it, but he struggled to make middleweight. So I think those extra £4, we can't write off how difficult it's going to be. Particularly, this isn't going to be a fight we think that's going to be announced for the winter. It's going to be actually potentially played out in October. We don't know how long they've been in camp, but the point where I'm going is he'll need a long camp to be effective coming down at that lower weight. Nevertheless, though, I think it's the weight will play a part in the fight, whichever way it goes.
So, yeah, you're not wrong. See, I've on the live, I said I think I can see both arguments for both winning based on the weight, and I think I know what you're saying about Eubank, but £4 coming down, and okay, they reckon it's hard for him to make 160, but he never looks dry on the scales. He never looks in atrocious shape on the scales. £4 coming down, whereas Conor Benn's not a big welterweight. And then, he's potentially got, £9 over and above, over half a stone. I just think, he's got power at welterweight from what we've seen, but we've not seen it at the top level yet because he's yet to make that jump. I can't see him testing Eubank's chin because unless the £4 does kill Eubank, what we've seen with Eubank is he's got a great chin on him. He's been in there, super middleweights have landed on him, and he doesn't go down, does he? I can't see Ben challenging him. I think that's the tough thing. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, for me, Eubank wins the fight. I think Eubank wins the fight because he's the bigger opponent, but I think his original style of fighting, the flurries, the uppercuts on the inside will be too much and will overwhelm Ben. I think Ben will have some success early on. He'll try that jab that worked to some success in some of those fights that he showed that vast improvement in during the lockdown. But I think what will then happen is these guys will revert to typing. I think what you'll see is the bigger fighter will win on the night, and that'll be Eubank. It's key to note that the drawing of the extra £4 is going to play a key role, but also don't forget it's the rehydration. These are the type of fights where I always look and think, is it going to be a rehydration clause? Because if there is, that could be significant, Josh. It really can be. If Chris Eubank Jr. is allowed to blow up to whatever weight possible, he's going to be absolutely massive in that ring.
I was going to say, this is my next point, and I totally agree with you. For me, if Conor Benn has made the concession, because, the fair thing would have been 154. It's, virtually in the middle of both. But if you've agreed to come up to 156, for me, the rehydration clause is key. If I was Conor Benn's camp, I'd be saying you can't rehydrate above whether it's 160 even or 162. I would be like, you keep that weight down because, there's an argument, and I saw it across social media, so I'm glad I'm not the only one to have had the thought. Does Eubank Jr. just come in at 160 and pay the fine? Because, there's one thing this fight won't be short of, and that's money in the pot. It's been blown up on social media this afternoon, and we've not even had the fight announced. What we've actually had is, the usual boxing journalists online have reported these facts or dates and details, and we've all lost our minds. So there's going to be money in the pot. Can you see a situation where Eubank just thinks, right, I'll come in at 160, pay the fine, and get the win?
No, because I think he's the consummate professional. I don't think Roy Jones will allow that. I don't think his dad would. I don't think they want their name tarnished. You got to remember both Chris Eubank Sr. and Chris Eubank Jr. have had challenges in the ring, almost atrocities in the ring, through no fault of their own. It's boxing; it can happen, and I don't think they want to run the risk of that again. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen to Conor Benn, but they're always consummate professionals. Outside the ring, in terms of the way they go on in the negotiating, well, that's a different story. But he trains hard. He's a professional. He will struggle to make the weight, but he will get down to that weight. Believe me.
No, see, I mean, for me, this is a bizarre fight for Conor Benn and Eddie Hearn to let him accept, because, you know, we talked about it a little bit in our live the other night. You know, Conor Benn's 25 years old. They've built him to 21-0 with the 14 stoppages. He's got a bit of a reputation as a bit of a puncher, and, you know, definitely a talent in the UK. He's well ranked in the world rankings. But just as they've gotten to that point of, you know, really it could be chuck him in with a Keith Thurman, or even, you know, if a world title shot came up, you know, they've got the money, they could make it happen. It's almost like a cash-in fight, because, you know, we've said they're not going to let him in with a Virgil Ortiz, a Boots Ennis. Spence Crawford looks to finally be happening, so the belts are tied up. But this, for me, it's too soon. The two fighters are just at different points, you know, comparatively. Eubank Jr.'s 34 professional fights. He's lost 2 of them. He's 32 years old. I get it for Eubank. You know, he's cashing in, isn't he? He's talked about wanting the Golovkin fight. Golovkin's fighting Canelo. What's the biggest payday I can get? Conor Benn, with all the family history, you know, with their dads.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre fight for me. You know, if you were Eddie Hearn, would you be letting Conor Benn take this fight at this point?
I wouldn't. I could probably. I said it on the live as well. I could probably see the business acumen behind it. He loses to Chris Eubank Jr. Oh well, he was brave. He stepped up. Nobody wanted to fight him at welterweight. You know, he stepped up to have a fight. He was brave. He lost. He can still come back and have another go at things at welterweight. I think it's cynical in the sense that, for the reasons you've mentioned, he's not going to put him in with the young killers at welterweight. He's not going to risk him against the David Aronessian. You put him up against a middleweight or super welterweight or whatever it is, and it doesn't do his welterweight reputation any harm. But it's a big risk. It was a similar logic I feel with Kell Brook. It's not one I agree with, but that's the only reason that I think of that. It is that risk, and it's a big payday. He wouldn't do it with Charlo, for example.
See, for me, sorry, Ray, for me, it
backfired.
Right. It backfired massively with Kell Brook, really. Kell Brook, although he put in a good, brave performance, you know, it sort of wasn't the end of his career. He went on to some big fights after, but he never looked the same again. And, you know, I'm just thinking, Ben's 25, his best years are ahead of him. If Eubank Jr. did a job on him, his confidence is shot. We've been sat here recently talking about Joshua Usyk. Is Joshua's mental strength there? I think you just make it, you know, it's potentially the same thing again. We'll be saying the same things about Conor Benn. If he goes and gets stopped in bad fashion, you know, I understand it, as you said, cynically. He goes back to welterweight. He drops back a bit, but he's still a name in the UK.
Yeah.
He has 2 or 3 fights. By the time he's had those, Spence and Crawford have moved up and on, and potentially like the likes of a Boots Ennis has as well. So the chances of a vacant world title fight are higher, which is, I think, probably Ben's best route at welterweight to a world title. But if you ruin him upstairs, that's never going to happen anyway, is it?
It's not. But what I think they can do is they can just basically step him down a notch and kind of look at building up by putting him in with domestic fighters. I think that's what they'll do. Should he lose in bad fashion? But I think you can't, either way, you can't go into a fight with Chris Eubank Jr. and not plan for if disaster happens. What I mean by that is if he's knocked out sharply and quickly and in bad fashion, you have to plan for that, because this is too big a gamble. Although Eubank might not be of Golovkin stature, and what I mean by that is he's not a devastating puncher. He is a lot bigger. He throws a lot of punches, accurate punches and accurate uppercuts, and he could actually hurt Ben coming inside if he's not careful, if he doesn't tighten up that defense. So you're right. Hearn needs to really think about this one, and if he gets it wrong, that could be the end of Ben, full stop.
No, I totally agree. We'll wrap it up there. Guys, please do us a favour, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more content, and we'll be live next Monday as well if you're watching this. So check that out. Thanks for joining us.